I'm excited,
Yeah.
Dolphin. This can be a fun ride.
Yeah, this should be fun. And guys, everybody on the call, please feel free to chime in. My normal presentation style is super interactive, and so it's a little bit odd to have everybody silenced. So please feel free to chime in, in the chat. And I'm not sure if we're able to unmute people to have questions, but
We we
uh,
can.
oh, sweet. So yeah,
All
if
they
you
need to
can
do is
raise
just let
your
us know
hand
that they've
and
got a question. Yep.
yeah,
So
that'd be awesome. So and just real quick, Jason, thank you for mentioning that. I'm the owner and CEO of Bugmaster in Austin, and Michael's Safe Haven up in Dallas. And then we work together as coaches for McFarland Stanford peer groups. We help small business owners figure out what they're trying to accomplish and build peer groups to help people get there. And so it's a super cool project. And we do it also with Kevin Kime, who a lot of you guys know. Um, but today we're talking about publishing plans, making plans, and making KPIs matter. Um, and the sort of concept for this talk was to talk about how to get a vision out there, and one of the key places that we start to talk about are something like this. Um, and one of the things I always like to ask is just what do scoreboards do? Right? So Michael, you read a scoreboard like this. What do you know? What do you think?
it's funny you brought this one up, right? This is there's a lot of hurt people over this one, but a scoreboard, you should be able to in an instant know what the heck happened or what is going on in the game. And this one is a final, right? So we know Ohio State really whooped up on Texas. We know that they were ranked 13th, and I'm sorry, uh, there we go, sixth and third and three. Sorry, we know what their record in the whole season was, and we know how OSU actually scored and Texas scored. There's so much information here that you're able to absorb in a very very short period of time, like seconds, right? So it's a great way to like figure out what the hell's going on, and that's what we need in our business, right?
Well, and another reason that I brought this one up in Texas, right, is there's passion around this, right? The UT fans are disappointed, A&M fans are happy, Ohio State fans are overjoyed, right? Everybody knows where they stand. They know whether they won or not, right? And the scoreboard tells you all the way along the way what you're wanting to, whether you're accomplishing what you set out to do, right? But the challenge with a football scoreboard is everybody really gets it. And so I was really thinking, well, what about scoreboards that are more like your business, where, you're asking people uh, to engage in something, but they don't really know what winning is, right? They don't know what all the different things, the different metrics mean. Because at the end of the day, score is the primary KPI for a football game, right? How many points they got, how many points you got, and then that tells you whether somebody won or not. So I wanted to take you down an exercise, and let's talk about a sport. I don't know, anybody on the call, a big Tour de France expert? Big cycling fans on the call today? Just raise your
Let's
hand.
chime in, guys. I know there's probably a lot of
A
passion out there around Tour de France. I think after
lot of
this,
crickets.
the Dauphin. Let's take a survey before and a survey after.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody planning on watching the tour this year? Kind of crickets there. All right. Well, I I'm probably all right. What we got one person.
Not a tour.
Literally just
Kevin's
left.
coming out. Kevin's coming out and saying not a fan already.
Okay.
So,
All
but,
right.
but
All right. We got some
you can
no's.
turn him.
Perfect. Well, some people know about me that I'm a fan of this sport, and I have a lot of fun with it. But one of the things I noticed right offhand is, you know, if if you don't know the sport at all, you don't know how to read the scoreboard. Heck, you don't even know what the game is, right? And I would argue this is a lot more like what happens when somebody joins your organization, right? They don't know how to play the game. They don't know what winning looks like. They don't know what's even going on. And so, what we're going to talk about today is what the demands of leadership are, what the demands of management are, and how you put those pieces together to really create a meaningful scoreboard to use to communicate your vision. So, all right. Well, you guys are going to have to learn a little bit about the tour today. So,
Looks like
here's
they're ready to talk golf. That's a problem.
all right,
That's
golf's
our
out,
goal here
guys. We're
today.
not talking golf. We're talking Tour de France. All right. This is a way harder event than golf, way better sport, shockingly better. Uh, uh, Guys, I would argue the tour is probably the hardest sporting event that exists. Uh, all right. So, basics of the tour. The race course is never the same from year to year. They might use the same mountains, some of the same roads, but it's never the same. All right. It is 21 days long. That means there's 21 races. Some of them are flat stages, some of them are hilly stages, some of them are straight up mountains. Every stage is 100 to 150 miles. So they're racing 2 to 3,000 miles over the course of these 21 days. There's 22 teams. A lot of people don't even know there's teams at all. Each of those teams consist of 8 riders, so there's 176 riders. Now, this is the first place I want to pause because most people think of a race and I say 176 people in it. And Michael, how many of those people do you think, Michael, are trying to actually win the overall race?
Well, I have to admit, you've started educating me over the last month on this. But I would have said every single person in the race is trying to win. That would seems very logical. Like, why enter a race that you don't plan on winning?
Yeah. And and so there's a reason there's teams, right? And we'll talk about some of those things coming up. But realistically, there's under 10 people that could win what is the whole race. And that whole race, the race that people think of, if people know one thing about the Tour de France, usually they know what's called the yellow jersey. That's the winner's jersey. The winner is the general classification winner. That means they raced the whole race. So 21 days, and they finished all of that the fastest. Make sense?
Seems
So of
simple enough.
all that 176 people, there's under 10 that can genuinely pull that off. Right? And it's known who those people are before the race happens. And then each one of those races, the single individual races are called stages. And there's individual stage winners. And those are important, and we'll talk about those too. The other thing is if you don't finish a day in the time cut, you're out of the race and you are not replaced. So if you crash, you're out. If you don't finish in the time cut, you're out. I think I'm having some connectivity problems. Uh, Michael, can you still hear me at all? Well, I'm not sure if you guys can still hear me. Um, let's see. Can you guys let me know if you can? Oh, you can. Okay, awesome. Sweet. I'm just losing Michael. But all right. So so you think about all of that stuff. And the job of the leader, the job of the race director is to actually give some context to the scoreboard. And they've got to put a team together to accomplish what they want to accomplish. And so the first story that I want to talk about is this one. What you see over here on the right is it's a cycling team from the tour last year. Um, and just to give you a little bit of orientation here, I mentioned there's 22 teams in the race. The general ranking is where you fall, in terms of where your team is at. So this team is ranked 22. They have 4 competitors still in the race. This is at the end of the race, and they won 1 stage. And so this is a sort of scoreboard, right? And the reason I pulled this one up is because if I were to ask you, well, does this look like a great result? They're ranked 22. They only won 1 stage. They only have half their team left. Uh, Probably your instinct would be to say this was likely a really disappointing race for them. Um, but that's the scoreboard without the story. So the real story on this scoreboard, this guy right here, Mark Cavendish, I'll talk about him again. Uh, People call him Cav. He, going into this race, in his career, he'd won 34 stages of the Tour de France. And the record for winning stages of the Tour is 34. It was tied with another person. And Cav was going to retire. And instead of retiring, Astana hired him back on to win one single final stage of the Tour de France so that he could break the record. So this is Mark's retiring season. He came on, they put a team together to do nothing other than win one single stage of the Tour. And I say that to say it's your job as a leader to give a context to scoreboards so people know what they're going for. And the scoreboard isn't always going to be the same for everybody. And to me, this is a lot more like business than in football, where there's one single goal and it's real simple to know what it is. In a sport like cycling, you've got to tell people what the goal is. You've got to put a team together around it. And so, number one, you've got to say, what scoreboard do we want? What is the good? What is the context for that? And then you've got to pick the people and the equipment and the resources to make sure that the team is actually set up to accomplish that goal. You got to give them control over getting it done and unite them around it so that they can work towards it. So that's the first job of leadership, is to figure out what you're going to get done, just like Astana did for this cycling season. So what's going to happen as a team director looks at a tour is they're going to know there's flat stages, there's hilly stages, and they've got to figure out, are they going to try to win the whole thing, or is that really not what they're going for this year? And again, I think this is a lot like business. You've got to figure out what the goal is and then figure out how all these different challenges, all these different days should play out so that you can tell everybody what each day looks like when it's done well. Michael, did we get you back?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. I guess I got low Wi-Fi.
You're good. Um, and so that's what the director's doing before the race. They're looking at all the race stages. They're figuring out, well, where do we have opportunities? And then they're going to put a team together. And so what's going to happen with the team? You're going to have some team leader who's got a top objective. Um, and so in this case, it's this guy, Jasper Philipsen, down here. He's the second one from the left. He's the team leader. This team went in trying to win flat stages for sprints. That's what they went and did. And the rest of the team in cycling is referred to as domestiques. They're supporting that person. And this is just kind of a detail of cycling, but riding behind somebody saves you about 30% of the energy. So when you can ride behind somebody, it really helps you accomplish that goal, right? And so he wouldn't be able to win the number of races that he could win without his team there supporting and helping him and making that happen. And, again, this is just clarity around what is our goal and how do we work together to get it. That's critical stuff for the leader. And then that helps you tell the story of what's happening on the scoreboard every single day. So in the tour, every single day has a stage winner, and it's a big deal to be a stage winner. Winning a single stage is super important. You can see how excited all these guys are. These are the winners of last year's tour on the individual stages. Um, and, um, you know, each day these teams are figuring out what their biggest opportunity is and how to do every single day. And again, that that doesn't necessarily align into the whole race. And so the next story I want to tell is the story of this team. Uh, these three guys. So the one on the left won the Tour de France in the year this picture was taken. The one in the middle won the Tour of Spain, which is another Grand Tour with the same format. It just happens in Spain. And the one on the right won the Tour of Italy. Now, no team has done this, won all three Grand Tours in a single year. It's a big deal, right? Um, and it's super weird for a single team to have three people who could potentially do that. And so you might think, man, they've got like the best team in all of cycling. And in a way they did, right? Um, but this
Sounds
is
like
where,
the triple crown of racing.
well, but in the Triple Crown, it's one horse that wins all three, right? But
Well,
in
one
this,
horse, one team. Seems like it's the same thing.
well, but this is where, day to day around that alignment, when you set the vision and you say, hey, we're going to be a team that wins Grand Tours. So we're going to get the sort of riders that win Grand Tours, right? Um, well, this is where you can run into an alignment problem. So on the one hand, you have the strength of you've got three people. So if one goes out, somebody else could pick up the slack, and there's some cool opportunities that happen there. But what other thing do you think happens, Michael?
Well, I bet you got internal competition. You got a lot of communication that needs to occur.
Right.
They've got to decide what's the goal. Are they going to win
Yeah.
a certain legs or segments, or are they going for the whole thing?
Right. So you got a lot of competing priorities that you got to keep in mind, right? And so so this day, this is from that cycling season. This is actually from the Tour of Spain. That's what's happening right here. It's those same three guys. They're in the middle of a race. And the guy to the far left, he's the guy who won the Tour of Italy. He's already won the Tour of Italy. He's having a killer season. And what's happening right here is the guy in back is the guy who's currently winning the Tour of Spain. That's the race they're riding right now. And he's actually attacking him. He's attacking his teammate, right? He's putting him under pressure because he wants to win.
So the
And
individual is starting to become more important than the team.
right. And and so this is one of the ways, and we can see examples of this in business, but you can take these killer team members, and when the alignment gets off, you really can struggle a lot. And what ended up happening in this at the end of this season is the guy on the left actually left this team because he wanted a team that would fully support his ambitions to win Grand Tours. The guy in the middle is the one who stayed to be the person who was their bet for who was gonna win. And the guy in the back said, I don't want to win Grand Tours. I just want to support somebody who's going to win Grand Tours. It's not my jam to do it, right? And the reason I tell that story is because understanding who your team members are and how they align into that vision is a really critical part of figuring out what it means to get this done, right? if you can't create the alignment of your team, you're going to have a really, really hard time pulling off each one of these days, right?
So many analogies to business there. Like how many um, team members do we have that are out for themselves? But we all have those team members that are selfless and get after for the team, supporting everybody, right? So I love the analogy that you're bringing up here.
Yeah, and so what's going to happen? You're going to set some kind of vision. You know, what are we going to do overall in a month or whatever it is, right? And you know, you're going to put the team together, you're going to tell them exactly what happens. But then as the day unfolds, as the month unfolds, the job of the manager is to keep your eyes out for what the opportunities are, because you don't know when the opportunities are going to unfold. You don't know how they're going to unfold. You know, you don't know when those new sales opportunities are going to come in that you need to take advantage of, right? You don't know. You don't know when these different things are going to happen, and so you know, when I think about that in terms of say a race, what you're seeing here in this picture, this is again from the tour. Um, and you can always identify the person who's the race leader because they're in a yellow jersey. So the guy in back is the race leader. He's on a different team than the other two guys. The other two guys are on the same team. And what they what happened right here is the guy in the yellow is leading the whole race. The guy on the far right is 39 seconds behind him, and the guy in the middle is about 2 minutes behind. But that means they're both in striking distance, and these guys are both threats for the overall race win. And so what happened in this moment is they realized that they had their main opponent isolated, right? And so this moment, which you can't plan, it's just an opportunity that you have to identify, right? But you can see it because they know what they want to happen. And so the moment that opportunity shows up, because they know they're racing for the whole race, right? And so they're not chasing down every opportunity that happens. There are certain people who might go up the road and they don't care. It's only these three that care about one another.
To me, this sounds a lot like the importance of a feedback loop with your team and the communication internally, making sure that the ideas are flowing up and that the opportunities that arise from there are realized.
100%. And you've got to be in the race. You've got to let the day play out to see, well, what are these opportunities? And so what these guys know is with the two of them, in cycling, you'll call it an attack, but you'll do a really strong acceleration. And see, the guy who's winning the race can't let either of these guys go up the road without him. But either of them can let the other two go up the road without him, and it's fine, right? So what they know is they can attack the guy who's leading the race and make him chase them. And so what they're about to do is just go on counterattack after a counterattack and make him chase them down until he gets too tired to keep chasing them. And he really doesn't have a move that he can play other than that, right? He has to chase them. And so they know in this very moment they've got the perfect opportunity to let this tactic play out, right? And so they're able to see it because they know the overall goal. They can identify that moment, and then they can just execute on the tactic. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Looks like there's all kinds of information on that page as well. That more scoreboards.
There's a lot more scoreboards, and a chunk of these tell you what this situation really is. And you know, not to get too far into it, but when you're reading up across the top, there's some little, you know, jersey icons. There actually is somebody else way further up the road.
Well,
Uh,
Dolphin, I think
yep.
what I when I see this, like as a one who doesn't understand cycling, I this could be like one of my team members looking at a P&L and having no idea what they're reading. And they're just seeing numbers. They don't have baselines, they don't have trends, they don't get it. There's not enough education. And when I'm looking at this scoreboard for cycling, it's just gibberish. It's a foreign language to me. So I wonder how often our team members find themselves looking at gibberish and it not being, they don't know what game they're playing.
Well, and if they don't know, you know, being able to identify this opportunity of, you know, who you're supposed to attack, who, when the opportunity actually is in front of you. You know that by being able to read the scoreboard, right? Like they knew not to chase down the person who's actually, again, there's a person who's already 20 seconds ahead of them. He's just not racing their race. It wasn't important to chase that person down. It literally didn't matter, right? But without this level of clarity, does your team know which things to chase and which things to not chase? When is the critical opportunity? Are they able to read the scoreboard and know what a critical opportunity is versus what a distraction is?
Well, I think how I relate this is knowing what your gross margin is, as an example, and knowing what business are you going after. Like your sales guy, are they just the sales team? Are they just out there pounding the pavement, trying to sell anything and everything, or are they very strategic about it? Are they your best gross margin may be on residential pest control, or are they selling that, or instead are they out there talking to restaurants, which might be the lowest gross margin?
Well, and Michael, a lot of that's how, from a management standpoint, you watch that and give context to those scoreboards, right? And and it's it's your job to be identifying those unforeseen challenges. Like I mentioned, you could lose a teammate in a cycling race because they crash and can't finish that race. Or they could finish outside of the time cut and be left out of the race, right? We in business could have somebody get sick. You could lose a team member for whatever reason. You can have these day-to-day challenges that are our key challenges every single day. And your team's looking at you to see through those challenges and clarify how do you win that day, even with that challenge going on, right? What do we need to accomplish today? Um, and how does today fit into our overall goal? And and then to identify those opportunities and encourage those opportunities, right? When uh, and I'm going to pop back to this slide and I just think about what's the race director saying in these guys' ears. They're on radios, right? And so the race director, their manager is saying, guys, you are in a perfect opportunity. Just execute. You're killing it. You're doing awesome, right? He's encouraging them. He's telling them that they're in perfect position to get this done, right? But that's all he's telling them. And he's encouraging them. And he knows that they're aligned, right? And that's great management, right? That's saying, hey, we didn't know this opportunity was going to happen, but it's right in front of us. Let's get it. Does that
But
make
he's also
sense?
able to make that decision because he's seeing the race clearly. He has all
Yep.
the metrics. He has all the understanding. He has all the information he needs to make that decision.
100%, which again, that's what you're trying to do as a manager with a scoreboard is to know all of these different pieces so that when great stuff happens, when opportunities happen or challenges happen, you can give context to those and give clarity around what does it mean to win today, right? And then you're building communication loops, right? Every day is going to start with a pre-race meeting where you're saying, "Hey guys, this is what we're doing today. This is what we're going for today. This is what we're going to have happen today. Today we're trying to have our sprinter win the stage. So everybody's going to focus on that, keep him safe, and bring him to the front.
Well, Dauphin, Kevin
Yeah,
McKee is not going to let you leave that slide without who won, what happened.
Kevin, thank you. I appreciate you asking
I think he
that.
may be watching the tour this year.
This was this was the decisive day of the tour. So the this attack was incredibly successful. These two guys, they did attack and counterattack and counterattack, and they cracked this guy in back, and this guy was able to put something like 3 minutes into him. And this was the day that Jonas sealed the win for this race. Um, this decisive opportunity was the opportunity, and this guy in back, he's too good to miss an opportunity like this, right? You've got to get him into the perfect position to take advantage of this opportunity. And you've got to see it the moment it happens, and you've got to take decisive action, which again is like a lot of us, right? The opportunities we have to get new great customers. I mean, they're just not falling out of trees all the time. You've got to you've got to be on the lookout for them. You've got to be able to identify them, and you've got to take advantage of them. And you can't chase the ones that are wrong.
I think it has a lot to do with the team that you build out and making sure that you're looking for the opportunities to hire uh, people. People are the hardest part, to the piece of the puzzle, right? To figure out. I think they're a lot harder than getting a few more sales.
100%. Well, and again, the story of cycling is the story of a bunch of different riders. Like I said, there's 10 people who could probably win the whole race. And or that general classification version, right? Um, but so if you don't have one of those 10 people, that's not your race, man. It's dumb to race that race. And again, this is a lot like our industry, right? If you want to provide service to, I don't know, Pepsi. Well, they're going to need a nationwide footprint and, a lot of crazy digital reporting. That may not be the best customer for you. And knowing when those customers that are your ideal customer are in front of you so that you can do an amazing job winning what it is to do their service versus knowing the customers that are not your ideal customer, that are distractions, that are going to take your energy away and not contribute to you winning the whole thing. That's what leadership is, right? And then management is this part where day to day you're going, guys, here's the challenge, here's the opportunity, or here's the challenge that we're in front of. We got to solve it, right? So setting those clear expectations, building those communication loops so that before the race, you guys know what is it to win this race for us? What's our goal? Are we here to race for one stage for Mark Cavendish? Or are we here to race 21 stages for Jonas? Right? Different goals. And your team can align around
Different,
either one of those, but you got to tell them. And
yeah,
then
different
every
races,
single
different
day,
people.
yeah, it's different skill sets, it's different opportunities. And again, I think that's a lot like our businesses where it's not everybody's business is the same. And so so taking the team, making sure you have a communication loop, making sure you're aligned with the team members so you don't have that situation where you got three rock stars that are all competing for the same sort of thing, right? The infighting, that's going to hurt your team a lot. And then the other thing that is super clear in sports that I think a lot of us have a harder time doing in our businesses is just acknowledging that was an awesome day, right? We did exactly what we wanted to do. And so this is a story that I really love, and I think this one speaks a lot to the way our industry is. And I've got to get a little bit more background here. Uh, but this is obviously at the end of a race, right? And
These
the
guys
guy
don't
in
look like
white,
they're on the same team.
what's that? Say again, Michael. Michael, what'd you say?
He said it doesn't look like they're on the same team.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. So, so one thing is having a clear sense of what winning is for other people. And it's true. So the guy on the left here, he just won a stage. And the guy who's, or sorry, the guy on the right, the guy in white won the stage. Um, and the guy on the left is on another team. And the little picture in picture here, uh, so these guys are both at the end of their careers. They've known each other for a really long time, and the this is this happens to be the final stage of the Tour of Italy. And the final stage of the Tour of Italy is a sprint. The person who's going to win it is a rider who's a sprinter, which is that same guy I was talking about earlier, Mark Cavendish. Now, this is his retirement season, and the guy who's wearing these weird white sunglasses, that's kind of his trademark thing. I don't know why he wears such ugly sunglasses, but those are the sunglasses he chooses. People call him G. He has had a long storied career. He won the Tour a handful of years ago. He's an incredible rider. These guys are friends, and G knows that Mark Cavendish doesn't have a strong team at this point in the race. And G's going to take second in the Tour of Italy. Full stop. He's already gotten that spot. He's gonna win second in the Tour, and he's happy with that result. Now, Mark's a sprinter, so Mark just wants to win days. And so what's happening in this image on the right side of your screen is G rode past Mark and knew Mark needed somebody to put him into position to win this race. And so G looked at him and said, "Get on my wheel. I'm I'm going to lead you out to the front to put you into position to win the race." And the reason I love this story, and the reason I think this story is actually a lot like our industry and makes me passionate about our industry, is because there's going to be a lot of people around you who can see your goal, who understand what it is, and they can see your opportunity moments. And even if it's the case that you don't immediately have the team to take advantage of that, you know, when there's this much clarity around what the goal is, even people who aren't on your team will look at at you in those moments and will offer you the help. And so what happened here is G let out Cav, and Cav won the race. And so that picture on the left is of them celebrating together. Um, and I just think it's such a cool story of two folks who had so much clarity around what it was for each other to be successful. And there's no tension between their versions of success, right? And again, I think, cycling is a little bit unique probably in this kind of opportunity. But I think it's such a cool story of of how this race unfolded. And again, I think it is a lot like us in the association. It's a lot like peer groups. But this level of clarity of letting people know what success is, I mean, it can even go beyond your team. And so, I really love this story. I think it's such a fun one, um, and
We
a
are
really
very
cool moment.
fortunate. We're very fortunate to be in an industry that there's so much back and forth help from each other, company to company, and the peer groups is in such an extreme case of where you've got a team that really is pushing for your success, right? Did you notice that
I lost you for a second, Michael.
Did you notice we got a question? Connor McKee has got a question.
I did not. I have a, what's the question?
Yep, it is. Let's see here. Sorry.
Let me see. Sorry, guys, I kind of suck at the,
Where did the Q and
There we
A
go.
go?
I got
Oh,
it.
there it is. Okay.
A big piece of our sales strategy is long game, relationship building that includes community networking, chamber of commerce engagement, etc. We have specific leads that we seek out at these various outlets. Do you view this as a worthwhile sales strategy, even if it doesn't provide immediate sales conversions?
Yeah, hey, Connor, awesome question. And I actually think that's one of the reasons I love the analogy of cycling so much here because you know the the thing about a 21 stage race is you know every single day counts, but you're not trying to win every single day. It's the buildup of every one of those days that matters. And to have the long-term strategy, right? To say, well, we want the sort of customers that build relationships with us through these, larger networks. Um, it is a slower burn. It's more like that whole grand tour winner rather than a stage winner. Um, but it's can be an incredibly successful strategy. But again, it's knowing, well, hey, there might be opportunities that come up where I could choose to go do a $200 job rather than do something for one of my strategic partners, one of my you know core long-term opportunities. And if you didn't know what your overall goal was, you might go, well, we should go do this other little piddly thing instead of going and taking care of this core client. And so, I think it's a great strategy, and I think it's the exact example of why it's so important to clarify for everybody what winning means. When you say winning for us is building out relationships with these 10 clients. If anything happens around these, it's the most important thing to go fix it. Right? That's a different business model. And it's a wildly successful business model for a lot of us in the industry. So, Connor, does that answer the question?
I think you did a great job there, Dauphin, of absolutely that. I think you nailed it. And, to your point about which race are you racing, if your goal was $1,000 of production every single day, well, okay, well, if you stick with that, then maybe that doesn't allow you time to go do the networking because you're eating into your opportunity of time, right? So if your
Right.
long-term goal is relationships and building uh, sales opportunities down the road with, then maybe it's not production isn't the goal. So to me, I hear it's about which race are you racing.
Yeah, 100%. And if you can answer that question, you're going to be able to go a lot further in being able to tell your team, right? So my question would be, do your KPIs communicate when you're winning, right? And Connor, that's probably what I would ask around that kind of thing is, if you have these longer term goals, do the ways that you're measuring it tell people, hey guys, we're killing it right now. Can you walk in every day and say, this is what we need to accomplish today. This is what the challenges are. This is what the opportunities are. And this is why, because it fits into this overall strategy of what we're wanting to accomplish. And the more that you can do that, the more that you can share that, the more alignment you can get from your team around that goal. And when you make decisions, when you say, hey, don't chase that guy who's going off the front right now, We don't care. He's 35 minutes behind. He's an hour behind. He's 3 hours behind. I guess I should say, the difference between like the person who wins the tour and the 100th rider will literally be like 10 hours, right? So there's a lot of this inside of the analogy that I probably haven't laid out as well as I could have. But you know, for you to say that's not an important thing right now. I understand how if you looked at it from the outside, it looks like it would be important. It's not. That's not what's happening. What's happening is the race that we're racing, and keeping focus on the race that you're racing is so important for winning it. Because otherwise, you're going to ask people to spend all their energy doing things that are not your race. And all that distraction is going to end up meaning that you don't get to your goal. And you're going to have a lot of frustrated people because they're thinking they did all this great stuff, right? They went and chased down all these people. And you're going, well, it didn't even matter if you chased that person. They're 4 hours behind us. What the hell did you do that for? Right?
By the way, Connor, if you've got any more input or questions, we'd you can chime in verbally.
Hey guys, thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask a question. So yeah, that's it's just a piece of our sales strategy. So it's not the whole thing. One unique thing is we're adding a sales part-time rep next year. And that's one of the things that I want him to be doing is going to these chamber meetings. I've been doing that and as our community is growing, I think it's helped with familiarity with our brand. The tough thing is going to be, and I don't necessarily expect an answer on it, but structuring a sales pay program when he's going to these networking groups and creating leads, but it may not be as quick as if he's spending his whole day door knocking, which may have a 10% or less conversion. But if he spends his whole day doing that, then, our area has been inundated as it's growing with door knockers, and it's getting, people post on Facebook about how much they hate that. So it seems to be a worthwhile strategy, but what I'm trying to learn and figure out is how to effectively reward him in this sales role with a strategy that's not, it will over the year, the goal is to have leads that are converted on the commercial and residential side. But it may not be looking week to week, you know, I guess how many conversions did you make or penalizing him if he hadn't made any, if it's, some of the focus is on the relationship and long term.
Yeah, Connor, I love this question. I love the point. Um, and there's a lot of nuance to the thing that you're asking. The number one thing that I would suggest and what I think this presentation would be trying to argue for would be that whatever thing that you unite around, that it really be the KPI that shows what winning is. So for instance, those long-term relationships, you have a goal of selling into those long-term relationships. And so, like if you put a KPI around, for instance, how many events you attend, well, that's kind of your strategy for winning, but it's not winning, right? And so if you're aligning around the wrong thing, right? If I go, all right, Michael, how'd you do last month? And he goes, well, I went to 73 networking events. And I'm going, well, okay, so how many of those, are relationships that are further going to develop so that we're going to sell something? And he says, none. I'm going to be pretty frustrated, right? Because my goal with this whole strategy was we're going to sell some stuff. And this is an easy thing to happen with KPIs where you pick something that's a off alignment for winning. And so, if Michael's looking at his KPI and going, man, I think I'm killing it. And I'm looking at it and going, you're way off. This is so far left field, it's not even funny. Usually that's a KPI problem. Usually that is that my strategy is not communicated well in my scoreboard, in my measurements. And so, Connor, a lot of times what you're talking about, it can be harder because the plan is longer term. But I think it's really critical that the absolute winning objective, this is the real reason we have this strategy at all, is clearly communicated. Because if you don't, you're going to end up with those alignment problems where somebody's going to think they brought great content to the table and you're not going to think the same thing. And that alignment issue can be a huge problem between you and your team. Did we get another question in,
He
Michael?
he said thanks.
Okay,
So yeah, that was
awesome.
good stuff.
And so, but that's what I really mean by do your KPIs communicate when you're winning? Are you measuring stuff that is truly what you mean by winning, where you would celebrate that, where you would look at it and have the sort of emotional reaction that you would have to that UT scoreboard versus Ohio State? Or do you kind of shrug your shoulders and go, okay, 7, right? Your scoreboard should matter to you. Honestly, it should matter to you way more than the UT scoreboard. This is our businesses, right? It should be driving real passion. You know, when you're looking at your scoreboard, if it doesn't give you fire, right? If it doesn't really drive passion, you probably aren't measuring when you're winning.
Yep.
So, just wrapping up here, guys. This is sort of our fun slide, but you know, when I started talking about this with Michael, it made me realize that Grand Tours are actually a whole lot like pest control months, right? There's 21 race days. You got to make it through the whole damn race. Same thing for us, right? We got about 21 work days in a month. There's 21 opportunities to win the day. And you got to go out. Every one of those days is going to be a little bit different. You know, you're going to have rain days. You're going to have hot days. You're going to have days that fall apart because customers changed what they wanted you to do. You're going to have weird days where, you know, different employee stuff happens or whatever that might be, right? But you got to take advantage of every single one of those days and make the very best of it, right? So it's a 21-day thing. You got to tell people what does winning look like? And then you got to take those days and try to win every single one of them, right? Cycling is a team sport, just like being in the pest industry. For most of us, this is a team event, right? We're working with folks in our organization to accomplish what we need to accomplish every single day, right? Michael, I'm seeing there's some chime
Yeah.
in.
Yep. Fred's asking, what do we think are some of the best top KPIs for a pest control company?
You know, Fred, to me, that's a pretty tough question to answer. I will say the common ones tend to be things like revenue, profitability. I think for owners, those tend to be the things that are incredibly significant and have a lot to do with the way that we would consider our companies successful. Um, but uh, but I would also say, you know, I think it's really company specific. Um, how do you see that play out, Michael?
I Yeah, I think profit absolutely has to be in there, net profit, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're not making profit, you're not going to be in business, right? So if you don't have net profit as one of your KPIs, I think honestly, we may be running the train off the track, off the cliff, right? I think gross margin is really important because you need to know how your delivery of service. Are you profitable? You need to know what the gross margin is for all your different classifications, your commercial, residential. And to me, that helps probably you decide which race you're running, right? Like I want to go chase the most profitable business. You know, I don't want to be chasing the lowest margin stuff. But if I don't know my gross margin, then I don't know which race I'm racing. So I think those are real important. But I think, Fred, I think it's also really important to get some really simple KPIs. So if I was to relate it to Safe Haven, we track winning by based on how many bundles have we sold. It's a real simple number for us to follow, and everybody gets it. It's easy to understand. It's a scoreboard that we all get, right? By the way, Tammy has gone ahead and given everybody permission to talk. So if you guys just want to chime in with some questions here to wrap up, I think that would be a great way to end.
Yeah, and as everybody's finding that unmute button, I'll just finish saying on this slide, you know, you're turning those 21 days into daily goals in the context of the monthly goal. And then as a manager, you're identifying the unforeseen challenges, right? That might be fleet stuff, might be equipment stuff, might be people stuff, might be customer stuff, could be any number of things. We know how many types of challenges they are. And you're helping your team see how to face that challenge and still win. Right? That's absolutely critical. You've got to be the one who says, this is how we're going to get through this. And then finally, identifying those moments of opportunity, those moments where you have a unique moment to take advantage of a real opportunity that will make your business better. And so the analogy of this type of sport, you know, number one, I hope that number one, I hope everybody watches the tour this year because it's such a great sporting event. But also, I hope that I was able to walk you through a little bit of what it is to talk about something where you don't understand the scoreboard, where somebody's trying to explain a scoreboard so that you can experience a little bit of what it's probably like for team members to join your company and for you to tell a story about why the scoreboard is meaningful and to see what that means to you as a leader and then how that translates to you as a manager day to day so that you can do those two things for the sake of your team. And ultimately doing that and putting all of those things together allows you to win together.
All right, let's see here. Well, Kevin appreciates it. And I think Kevin has now, he is a cycling fan. Is that the way you would refer to it, Dauphin? Are we now cycling fans?
Yeah, part of the cycling community.
Community.
You know?
We are community.
Yeah. We're community.
Jason, Corey,
I'm
you
gonna get a
guys you
All
guys
right,
got
Kevin,
some KPIs?
Yeah.
I might be a little top heavy for cycling.
What's
He
that?
is
I
kind
could
of
definitely be the guy to draft behind.
Yeah.
well, Jason, if you're pointed in the right direction in Amarillo, you probably don't have to pedal too much.
That's right. That's right. All I have to do is be facing the right direction winter and summer, and I'm good.
Jonathan, well done, sir. Let me just say thank you for putting this together. It's so different and unique and so Dauphin, but it applies so well to business. Business is complicated. There's so many different ways to win, different types of business, residential, commercial. You could go after high end, low end, multifamily. There's just you can build a lot of different companies, and then you can go: are you high growth, or are you like building for net profit? Right? Like which race are you racing? I love the analogy. It's so applicable.
Well, and I hope it was a little bit of fun, and I hope the ideas of you know what it means to lead a team and what it means to lead a team to win in that kind of a situation and how that's analogous to what we do I hope that if anything is retained, it's that. That our job is to set the vision for winning, to equip the team with the right stuff, and then to guide the day-to-day to that path to win as a team. So I appreciate it, guys. I hope it's been a little bit of fun. I hope I didn't bore everyone to death with all of the cycling talk.
Well, again, in April 2nd, we're going to have our next business expert talk, and it's going to be risk management. So I know Jen Howard brings a lot of energy to insurance, but I give me cycling all day long over risk management.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I mean, probably we're going to have a bunch of requests for, just us talking about cycling for the rest of the year. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm pretty sure we could incorporate risk management into the cycling world.
Yeah, it's true. I don't think anybody wants to insure these cyclists. That's certainly the case.
Well, thank you very much, guys. We really appreciate you. Great job. Learned a lot. And everyone, thank you. And we will see you on I think it's the 20th for Pest Expert. And then we'll see you April 2nd for the next Business Expert. Hope
Awesome.
everyone
Thanks
has
so
a
much,
great
guys.
day.